Welcome to MSP Unplugged Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you are a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce our guest for today. We have none other than Ray Orsini over at OIT VOIP. Ray, how are you today?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. I'm doing well. It's a full Tuesday, as you will, as we're recording this on a Friday. But embracing the next weekend, and we're fast approaching one of my favorite things, and that is Techcon Unplugged. And we'll dive in a little bit to talk about how you all are helping us out with some of the things there as well. But Techcon Unplugged will be in Woodbridge, New Jersey, this September 7th through the 10th. So less than, I think we're at like 19 days now, if I recall correctly. You can check the website for that nice counter that scares me every day as we move on to our 4th annual event. Again, this is our annual gathering of IT business owners. It is fast approaching. You can join like-minded business owners for a weekend packed with resources to help your IT business thrive. Your ticket includes 25 plus educational sessions, 2 networking events and after-hours entertainment, all expo hall meals, refreshments, happy hours, automatic entrance into our generous show raffles and giveaways, but most importantly, the ability to walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. If this is of interest to you, head over to techconunplugged.com and get your ticket today. All right, my friend. So, I think today we wanted to obviously talk a little bit about really just diving into, your involvement with the community. I know obviously OIT VoIP is not the only thing that you're doing. You got MSP Media Network. You got your hands involved in some other things that's supporting the community and stuff like that. But before we go into all that, and for maybe someone who doesn't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and then kind of what you do for the community here?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Alex Farling likes to say, I'm a reformed MSP. I did MSP for 8 or 9 years. Probably IT engineering for close to 25, and so been through all that. And I realized somewhere in my career, I liked working with MSPs better than I liked working with end users. So we decided to go use my VoIP background and decided to go full VoIP and do 100% channel, and been working through that ever since. I often said when I was in my MSP days, I wish there were as many communities as there are now, because a lot of it was, F around and find out, right? Just figuring out what you could do. There wasn't a lot of resources, a lot of people I could reach out to. So, throughout my career, as I've joined those communities, right, whether it's the Facebook groups or the LinkedIns or the Discords or the Slacks or Reddit, they had a major impact on my career, and I want to make sure I can pass that down to the next one. So my focus has been, and that's where MSP Media Network came in last year, was just getting everybody together. It doesn't matter if they're watching your podcast, my podcast, or anywhere else. It's one community. And so that's why I'm such a huge supporter of, TechCon Unplugged. I'm a huge supporter. I was involved in MSP GeekCon. The more I can do for the community, the better. And I'm a moderator in our MSP, and I'm probably in every tech community in some shape or fashion. So I'm everywhere.
Yeah. And so you mentioned Alex Farling. He is speaking at our event here. Great channel champion, really knows and dives into a lot of the VCIO and QBR stuff. For those who don't know, Virtual Chief Information Officer, QBR quality business reviews or quarterly technical reviews. I mean, they've overloaded those 2-3 letters so many times in the industry for those acronyms. As my former business partner would say, he'd like to stick a fork in his eye for every time he heard an acronym. So definitely something for everybody for there. But, I want to dive into something that you just mentioned right now. And that is, really the fact of not only the community, but being able to be visible everywhere, right? And really being able to have the ability to help everyone. I even think I heard from Alex and some others that, like, no matter what channel you're on, you could definitely find you there and you're awake. Like they think you're a robot. They think that you do not sleep because of
I've heard that before.
On the odd times for that. But, I think, for a lot of people to understand that like community giving is really a labor of love. And it's really something that you're trying to do and things of that nature, which, the running title for this, and maybe we'll change it, is that, why being available for the community and just supporting the community and being able to receive and help with information definitely help not only in these type of avenues, which is the podcast, and you got the webinars and interactive on-demand virtual conferences, but you just can't beat in-person connectivity. You cannot beat that
Oh, absolutely.
relationship, the
Yeah.
rapport, just like stuff like that. Because, you know, and I'll tell you, and it's something simple, but it's one of those where I was like, I was glad to be able to help. Is so we were at the Acrona Studios when we
Oh
were
yeah.
doing that
Yeah.
podcast, and so,
That
you know,
was
we were
fun.
doing our thing, you know, we were whatever,
Mm,
and you know, we had our Scarlet, we were doing whatever, and so you're like,
mm.
hey man, I need to use that Scarlet because we're dead in the water here, because, and there was
Yeah,
some, you
you
know,
bailed me
not
out.
not
Yeah, yeah.
not to the fun parts for Cronus, but like we were all trying to figure it out, and so
Oh
we were
yeah.
like, hey, can I, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it was one of those where like, yeah, man, absolutely, here, you know, do what you got to do. And so then we had to travel all the way from Miami to Orlando to meet
Mm,
up again, and it's just one of those where it's like that ability to be like, hey, we're not only friends, but like, hey, I'm in a jam, I need to help you out, and figure it out from there.
yeah.
And it's really just how we just view things. Like, there was no point in my mind what I would be like, I'm not gonna give you this. What are you talking about? You know, it's like there was
Yeah.
never any of like, you know, and that's how it is, right? And especially
Mhm.
when we're trying to help and throw events and things of that nature. Like, you had a very you were helping out with MSP GeekCon.
Mhm.
Um and throwing an event is freaking insane, let alone a
Oh,
first
you know.
annual event, right? Right, and a first annual event, but at that capacity. Like, you all were trying to make sure
Yeah.
with the guys over at MSP Geek, you're trying to make sure you hit that out of the water. So you made a statement, you try to go, and so,
Yeah.
you know, I think the biggest piece about all that is, at least what I would love to have in this conversation, is why do events matter? Why should someone, you know, who, I was like this for a long time, I'm at my computer, I don't need to whatever, I don't need to get involved, I don't need to learn anything, I know what I know. And then the moment I started to see a little glimmer, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And started, oh, what's podcast? Started listening to the podcast. Oh, they're doing a meetup. Let's do a meetup. And then when you have a bigger show like MSP GeekCon, you have those that are gathering and stuff like that. It's just transformative in my opinion. And so, just curious on your feedback on, like, you know, why do you get involved with events, why do you attend events, and why do you feel like they matter and really helping as far as in the community aspect of it?
I have to answer that in a couple different capacities. So, you know, because I first started attending events as an MSP. Actually, I first started attending events as DJ, but that's a whole nother lifetime. But as an MSP, it was a lot. We've all been there where we take over from somebody else and we're like, oh, this person's an idiot. Why did they do this? Why did they do that?
Hmm.
And then, you know, okay, so you take over the client, you make changes, whatever, and then you'd go out and you'd go to like a vendor meetup, or you'd go to some kind of training session. And we have a Microsoft campus pretty close to here, so I'd go there pretty often for training and update my MCSE stuff and whatever. And so I'm there, and you start talking to these people, and you start realizing, wait, there's other ways of doing it besides my way of doing it, right? Like
Right.
there was a thought process behind it, and yeah, we didn't get to the same result, but they were accomplishing something, and I'm accomplishing something. We're doing whatever's better. And the conferences allow that, right? So as an MSP, I would go and I got to learn from others. I always said the best sessions were the hallway sessions, right?
Yeah.
I'm particularly known for sitting in the hallway having conversations. I attend sessions every once in a while, but I'm more so in the conference hall, in the hallways, or at the bar. I'm usually having a conversation with somebody. That's where I learn. Um, don't get me wrong, I love listening to thought leaders like Alex Farling and Marvin B and all these others that are in our circle of friends.
Yeah.
But as an MSP, that was the real win for me. Going to meet other people, seeing how they do things, realizing they had the same frustrations I had, right?
Right.
And getting to vent, and getting to talk to your peers and learn new things. And just before this call, I mean, you remember Trillion, right? Where you could have
Hmm.
like all your chat apps in one. And, you
Yeah.
know, that's been
Wow,
sorely
that
missed
takes me
since.
back.
Yeah. Well, one of the discords I'm in just talked about a service called Beeper, which now has 15 apps services built in, and it's meant to be the same thing. They're in alpha right now.
Okay.
But I learn about all this stuff from those conversations.
Right.
And yeah, they happen in Discord, they happen in Slack. Don't get me wrong. The online communities are fantastic. I built my entire career on them, but there's something about the in-person stuff. There's something
Yeah.
about getting to sit down and talk to you, to talk to Rick, to talk to whomever, and just learn from each other. You know what I mean? It's a different level. As a vendor, we're supposed to go and sell stuff and whatever. I have the booths and all that stuff. That's not a big deal. And the only reason we're not at Techcon is because scheduling conflicts, because after last year, I was dying to go this year. You have no idea. And we'll get into how I handled that instead. If I can't go, everybody else is going. But you know, but even now as a vendor, like I still treat it like as if I was an MSP. I'm in the hallways, I'm at the bar, I'm talking to people, and the best conversations for me happen immediately before or after the sessions, right? The sessions, you're learning from the person interacting with that expert, but afterward it's talking to the others and like, what did I just hear? How do I digest that? What did I hear? The same thing you heard? And how do we make use of all this new information? You can't do that online. There's no, when the webinar is done, it's done. You know what I mean? There's no, you know, it takes a lot of effort to continue the conversation. And really what happens, you at conferences, you can do that. Or you can go up to the speaker and say, hey, you said this was really interesting. Can you elaborate on that? Can you, and I love every minute of it. I mean, just that you sponge, take it all in. And honestly, while I love, you know, ITNC is my home, but let's be honest, it's a massive 5,000 person conference. There's no way you can enjoy all of it. It's like going to Disney. You can't enjoy all of it, no matter how long you're there. I appreciate the smaller conferences a lot better. You know what I mean? I appreciate the conferences where you can have real conversations. Not that you can't at the bigger conferences. It's just, it's a different, it's going to a concert versus, you know, going to an unplugged, you know, private thing, right? Different experiences. And so I kind of always had like that spot in my heart for the smaller stuff where you can really engage.
Yeah. So
I think exactly what you're doing. That's
right.
I mean,
And so exactly like you said, right? I think for us, we so to unravel a lot of that, you know, the first thing is like exactly like you said, like my first ITNC was, and for those that know IT Nation Connect, we were that was my first one was last year in Orlando. And so, you know, exactly like you said, compared to, you know, some of the other conferences, I mean, this is one of the mainstays of the industry and the channel. And so being able to see all the people that I haven't seen in so long, because that's one of the central like key events that people go to every year. But two, exactly like you said, like sometimes you miss out on the sessions that are going on, the things and different just activities that are happening, right? You know, there's only
so much you can do at one time. You know what I mean?
And how huge the place was and how to get from one place to another was just crazy in its own. And so, you know, I have also heard from like what you just mentioned is that a lot of partners and a lot of vendors feel that the smaller conferences, smaller event meetups really assist on just being able to get a little bit more one-to-one conversation, whether that is market feedback for the vendors, whether the MSP and IT service provider is learning something. I do believe that the hallway conversations is where the magic happens. I really feel that, and I learned this, and I can't recall what. I think I was at a ChannelCon event back in 2017. I think it was, maybe even earlier than that. Actually, 2015. So it was actually 2015 when they were in Chicago. And I remember sitting at a table and we were basically saying, everyone was kind of talking about their pricing structure. And I can't remember the gentleman at the time, but he said, hey, our pricing structure is this, this, and this. And I wish I could tell you what it was. And when I heard it, I was like, damn, that's smart. I never thought about it in that way. And he's like, yep. And people will say this is the wrong way of doing it and whatever, blah, blah, but this is why we've been successful for the past, I don't know, he said over 12, 15 years at the time. And so I was just so like, that was the first time I experienced that hallway conversation and understood that it isn't so much the sessions, which like you said, they're great thought leadership sessions that we have.
Absolutely.
And you know, every event organizer tries to put their best foot forward on hoping to understand what their community is asking for. And it's really the ones that listen will pull their community, understand what they're trying to listen to, and they toss that information and throw those events. But it was for those going to events, and I now know, is that you never know what you're going to get when you go to an event, when you experience the hallway conversations, the lobby conversations, the bar conversations, right? Continuing that conversation is really the huge theme that we have here, but also something is a theme that goes across every community and every event. It's just such a huge place of, you just don't know. And if you go into an event thinking, well, I know everything here, this is going to be a drag, why am I here? You know, if you go into that mindset, you're not going to get anything out of it. But, you know, I always go into something and I, you know, I suffer from this too. I'll sometimes look at something and I'm like, oh, this is such a drag. Why did I come here? And I think, and I have to reframe my mind. I was like, look, if you get at least one nugget from this event, it was worth you coming out here. And 9 times out of 10, that usually is what happens. And being able to keep that open focus to really drive that home. And so that's the whole point of
you
opening
engage, the people you talk to, right? It's like, it's just, you learn so many different things. I can't say the number of times as an MSP, I looked at block hour, I looked at per device versus per user, monitoring only. Like I've been through the whole gamut. The same thing all of us have done, been through the whole gamut. And, you know, you have what works out for you, right? You have, okay, well, this works for me. But when you talk to others that have also been through it, and even if you don't agree on what the final thing is, I mean, good Lord, which RMM should I pick on Reddit? That's like the daily conversation, right?
Right.
But, you know, but even if you don't come to the end point, you get so much more data, so much more, because you get what they reviewed and what their perspectives were and why they're doing certain things and what didn't work for them. So even if the thing you're doing is what didn't work for them, you've now heard the gotchas they went through, so you can avoid those pitfalls in your business.
Right.
And like you were saying with Acronis, you know, we both have podcasts, we both have our businesses, whatever. You could argue we're competing for audience share, but that's not the way either of us roll. You know what I mean? And I even sat there and watched you and Rick, right? Like I watch you guys do your thing, and I watch and I watch everybody else at the Acronis thing. And so, you know, we all have, you realize how many people in the MSP space have that same mindset of, no, we're not competitors. We're friends. We're people helping each other. We're here to support each other. At the end of the day, it makes us all better. You know, and yeah, you completely bailed me out of Corona, so I appreciate it. You know what I mean? And that's just an extension of what happens at these events. You get so many more resources. We're actually working on this. It's funny because I'm on in CompTIA, I'm on the Channel Development Advisory Council. I'm one of the co-chairs. And one of the things we're working on is how to enable MSPs to be able to find other MSPs so they can collaborate and have additional resources when they want to, right? Because if you're not doing the conferences, if you're not doing these events, your mindset can very well be, it's me versus them. I got to keep my secrets close to the vest. I don't want to share anything because, you know, they might take something from me. And
very siloed.
It's not, oh, absolutely. And you're at a detriment when you think that way. But when you go and you attend these events, you realize, no, we're all here to help each other. Like, that's not the mindset here. You realize how much more is available. It's such an eye-opening thing. I always recommend owners, get your butts out there to the conferences, go see, and send your team too. Don't just, I mean, I know most small MSPs can't send the whole company at a time, right? Like, that's hard. Good Lord, we just took 10 people over to ChannelCon 2 weeks ago, and that was rough. That was that's not anywhere near all our company. That was still kind of rough, but there's so much education. There's so much, it makes them so much better. That, you know, every employee should have been to one conference at one point, you know, if you can swing it as a business owner.
Yeah. And there's something to speak to that too, right? And it's being able to not only help your own growth, but your team's growth as well. I brought my team, how many people did I bring? I brought 3 of my team members last year to Techcon. One, because it was my show, and I was like, oh, you know, and there's a lot of thought process, and so it was a little lower. I mean, it was still a cost, but you know, I can at least work into it. And so, you know, it was my director of business and administration, my office coordinator, and then my director of IT ops. And the value that they received from that, especially the back office, because they're on the admin team, you know, it was so eye-opening to them on. They're kind of just focused on their little part of the world, and it's very hard to kind of explain what everything is because you only have your perspective of it. And so by them attending not only specifically to their role, but for everything. I remember Rosa, who's our director of back admin office, she came back with notebook full of notes, and she's like, oh yeah, we got a bunch of things we're going to be changing.
Don't you love that?
And so it's like, well, what I love the most is and so so there's that. And I'm going to pick on what's the next thing is their love for swag. and I
Oh
think
yeah.
all companies love the swag, is when we went
Yep.
to PAX 8, you know, I invited a couple of my team members over there as well. And I will tell you the excitement of the amount of swag, because they only went to Techcon versus going to PAX 8. I mean, you
That
swore they
is
were in like
the funniest thing, because you and I go to conferences all the time. We end up being mules because we bring all this stuff home. I don't keep half the stuff anymore. Like, it all goes to my
Yep.
staff and whatever.
Yep.
But we did that for GeekCon because I was in the same boat as you. I was helping plan GeekCon, so I brought almost all of my technicians over there because it was a technician focused conference. And the funniest thing was, like, I remember one of my guys, Chris, he looked like a kid in a candy store. It was him and I want to say Garrett. Like, they were just smiling ear to ear, running booth to booth, collecting stuff. They were so happy. And it was the funniest thing in the world. And yeah, they loved the conference. They loved the sessions. They loved learning. They also, all of them came back with, notepads full of, we got to do this now. And I love the excitement.
Yeah.
But just that running around and getting the swag is hilarious. Like, they're so happy, and it makes you happy, right? As like somebody who facilitated that, like to make that happiness. So I love seeing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know you're on a tight timeline here, and I just want to go into the fact of just the way events are. The difference between a good event and an event that may not just be really for impactful for you. I was just at Huntress and Empath Cyber's masterclass yesterday. Got my little swag that they have for their in charge cable, but that was probably the first lunch and learn that I absolutely enjoyed. I mean, it was one of those where there was no pitching. It was literally an education on so many lessons on what's up. We're not looking for the black swan events. We really have gray rhino events. And what does those terminology mean? How to really understand, to teach, tailor, and take over, and really understanding the methodology. I mean, what Wes got going over there on Empath Cyber, I implore everyone to take a look at that.
Yeah.
We'll have that link in the show notes as well. And then, but yeah, Huntress, that whole masterclass, like, that's how you throw an event with impactful.
They're the kings of
networking
content, easily.
Yeah.
Education, and then you add West to that.
Yeah.
Jeez,
totally huge, huge. But I want to round out the show because I want to be respectful of your time. OIT VoIP always has been a great supporter of MSP Unplugged and Techcon Unplugged. And so, because as you just mentioned, you weren't able to come. Your philosophy is, hey, if we can't come, we're going to make sure we bring some people to come as well to enjoy this content and this event. So we were actually on the Tech Bar back in March, I believe. We had the ability. You were sponsoring 3 IT business owners, technicians, IT service providers to come to our show. We selected 2 that day, which is Dallin Loomis and Michael Powers. And then we were going to have a future date for that 3rd one. So I'm happy to announce that today we have that 3rd member, and that's Joey Thomason over at Exodus IT. They're down over in Florida as well. We have been in communication with them and to make sure that they are able to attend. They're super excited. One of those MSPs and IT service providers that really just wants to soak up and just learn and get the most out of it. So again, Ray, we want to thank you for supporting us and getting some more people out there, because I think not only do we have new faces kind of coming into the space and learning a little bit more, but we've now hopefully opened some doors for them and introducing a community that they can leverage and hopefully find their own success. And, you had a good part in that, and we appreciate that for that support.
No, and congratulations to Joey. Very happy. I'm very excited to see it. At the end of the day, for me, it's all about that, seeing that smile ear to ear, that excitement of going, that eye-opening moment. And actually, I'm going to double down on it. You got another 3 passes from me. Give it out to your audience beyond this.
Awesome.
You pick them, you put them, and because I am, besides, this is my way of dealing with my FOMO of not being there, but and I absolutely will be there next year.
Awesome.
But whatchamacallit, it's so important for people to get a part of this. And if I was going, I'd be taking a bunch of my staff and they'd be learning. And this way, maybe some other people can have that same experience. So if we can get 6 people going that are all excited about it, even better. But awesome. I'm happy to support you guys. You guys are doing amazing work between the podcast, the conference. I hear Techcon Unplugged is one of those that I universally hear 100% of the time how awesome it is. And usually you don't get that. You get like 70-30, 50-50, depending on who. No. Techcon Unplugged has always been 100%. I have major FOMO. So I'm really happy for those that are going to get to go, and I hope you guys have the best time ever. And I will definitely be there next year.
No, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate your support. I definitely will keep everybody in the loop on who those additional 3 will be. I will say, hint, 5th annual. It's a big year for us for next year. We may be in an East Coast city again. We'll keep everybody in the loop with those final details will be announced at Techcon. So, but again, Ray, really appreciate you coming out, us revealing the third person there, talking a little bit about community and events. For anyone that wants to know more about you and find out about what you're up to, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Literally on all the online communities is OIT_Ray, RAY, or hit me up, ray@oit.co, and happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Awesome. Well, for all of you tuning in today, we appreciate you listening in. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. We are going to be back on our regular schedule here after our summer Pitch It series with Sean Lardo, another good friend of ours here. If you want to watch the video podcast, head over to youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Subscribe, hit that notification button, and we'll be sure to let you know that when a new episode is available. But if you'd like to take us on the go, we are on every podcatcher app, Apple Music, Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Once again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
Take care, everybody.